Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Lion family. My name is Michelle Biggs, and I am the Executive Director of Alumni Relations here at Southeastern. Welcome back to day 3 of our Coffee with the Dean series. We're so excited to have you here. As you know, this is all part of our Homecoming at Home celebration for our alumni. And we're very excited because we've had some really great response to this series during the week. And we're excited to be back for a third day and hope you'll join us for the rest of the week as well. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping reminders. Everyone is in attendee mode, so we won't be able to hear you or see you, but please feel free if you have questions for Dr. McCarthy. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, so we encourage you to press that button and submit your questions there, and then at the end we'll try to get through as many of those questions as we can. So let's get started with some introductions. Dr. Daniel McCarthy earned a BS in physics from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, and a PhD in plasma physics with a specialization in magnetically confined fusion energy from the University of Maryland. Prior to his appointment as the Dean of College of Science and Technology, he served as the head of the Department of Chemistry and Physics. As a faculty member, he taught 16 different courses ranging from acoustics for musicians to electromagnetic wave theory. Dr. McCarthy has published over 20 articles on plasma physics, receiving over 250 citations and $350,000 in external funding to support his research, and continues active collaborations with scientists from around the world. He has also been actively involved with undergraduate research and has had 6 undergraduate students as co-authors on his publications. Today's student reporter is Rachelle Riley. She is a graduating senior and honors student, a communication and media studies major with a minor in Spanish. She serves as a reporter anchor for the Emmy Award-winning Southeastern Channel's North Shore News and competes with the Southeastern track and field team. Earning Southeastern's first ever internship with ABC's Robin Roberts, along with a Louisiana Association of Broadcasters student scholarship, Rachelle hopes to land a position as reporter and anchor at a local news station upon graduation. Welcome both, and I now turn it over to Rachelle.
Good morning. First, I would like to thank Dean McCarthy for taking the time out of his busy schedule and speaking with us today on the segment Coffee with the Dean. Now, like we said before, we have a lot going on, and I know you have a lot going on in the college, but for the alumni, if you want to put any questions in for this Zoom call, please put it in the Q&A and not in the chat, or we won't be able to see it. Now, let's get started. I'd like to first talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We know that there's a shortage of women in those fields. Can you tell me a little bit about how the college is kind of closing that gap?
Yeah, good to see you again, Rachelle. Good morning. Thanks for doing this. That's a great question. It is a huge issue. I mean, underrepresented groups in STEM is a broad subject anyhow, with women being one of them. Certain disciplines it's really underrepresented, like physics, my home discipline, but also computer science, engineering, industrial technology. And so when you have, our student body here, which is about 2/3 women, and our graduates are maybe 20%, there's an issue here. And so, and this is not just at Southeastern, this is nationwide. This is the way these things are in all disciplines. But you can sit back and say, well, that's just a problem. That's the way it is, or try to figure out what the root problems of it are. So what we've been doing is we have some wonderful faculty members who are being very active in, we've developed this Women in STEM society here, where we have women faculty members, and they have the students are driving this and being involved. And so by doing that, we've brought them to companies to also, and funny, the companies also have women in STEM groups too. So the employees in these tech fields realize it's a big issue. Just awareness, confronting some of the issues, like how do we get to this point? What were some of the roadblocks that may be invisible roadblocks you don't even know about that have been put up that keep women from thinking, wow, this is a great field to have career. And like someone like you know, you would have certainly maybe loved this. I know you're smart, seen your GPA. So, but you may not even thought that science was a viable thing for women because there aren't that many role models. So it's basically just trying to raise the awareness of it. We have a lot of recruiting events going on. One thing we did last summer, not the previous summer, is a coding camp. And it was all for high school students to do it. And of the 24 students we had, half were girls. So that is fantastic. So we're trying to really do more early on to make people aware, make the students aware, make the parents aware, and make all of us aware that, you know, STEM fields are exciting fields. They're not just boring and technical. They're actually very creative also, which is why women tend to do so well in these fields, is that it does bring out a creative side to it too. And if you look at the most recent slew of Nobel Prizes, a lot of women are now getting some awards. So we're really excited about that. And but it's going to take work. You can't just sit back and say it's going to solve itself. You need to do things aggressively there. So that's what we're trying to do by including students. And we've also sent, we sent some students to a conference this year. I forget the name of the conference, but it's about women in computing. And so it was meant to learn about best practices, then bring them back here, and hopefully we can apply them here to, again, draw more, really broaden the pool. It's not to keep men out of these things, but to bring more women into it is the idea.
Right. And I just wanted to touch upon one of the points you made about your Lions Code cyber camp.
Yeah.
My little brother, he's a sophomore, and he got into that camp. I know it was a hit. There was even a waiting list. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how it developed?
Yeah, it's it's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. A few years ago, the university got some money from the state to. It was tied into this company DXC moving to Louisiana, and it was meant to support really all the tech industries around here by helping out higher ed, because we're the ones who are going to graduate the students there. So with this money, we've done a number of initiatives. And one thing we realize is that we've got to get a pipeline going. And one of the pipelines is going to be reaching out to students in high school and letting them know about these things and letting them know that they can do it here at Southeastern. I mean, that's the thing I think people may not realize, these amazing, you could have a straight path to a great career at a Fortune 500 company, a tech company in New Orleans, right through here. So we did that. We invested some money in that. We got some wonderful faculty, and they developed all the programming, and we reached out, and it was oversubscribed within a week. So, the point of it, we had, I forget, the first summer, it was kind of the first time around. So we had to cap it, I think 25, but we had about 70 people that were interested. And this summer we had to do it virtually, as we all know, we're doing everything virtually now. And we had over 100 students interested this summer. I think we had to cap it at 60. So really tremendous thing. We're going to try to see if are some other times that we could do this that would fit in well with the school year, because there's the interest, there's the demand, and as your brother experienced, it's really effective. Like this summer, we did something on cybersecurity, where they had to hack something, or I forget the whole details because I wasn't designing it. Our faculty did, but they're trying to make it fun and interesting. And again, it's creative. It gets their creative juices going, and it's exciting and interesting, but also interactive. The kids realize early on they got to work in groups and work together, which is an important thing in the workplace, which we're trying to instill with them early on.
That's exciting. And I know it was also free. And so for students to have that kind of access, I think it's really important. And then you also talked about funding. So I wanted to go on to the STEM Next Opportunity Fund that was just announced last month, I believe, where a multi-year grant was given to the Louisiana Center for After School Learning. I'm a part of the Million Girls Moonshot. Can you explain how LACAL will be working with the Southeastern STEM program?
That's something we haven't formalized any relationship yet on it. I think that's something that's happened at the state level. And just the way these things typically work. For example, as a relation to that, this LaSTEM initiative was announced many, many years ago. And we just became, I think 2 months ago, a LaSTEM site here, a STEM site for this region. So that's just been involved. And typically they'll reach out to the universities and see what we can bring to the table. So right now we don't have a formal relationship, but as I've been describing, we're doing these things now, which is kind of priming us so that when it does become formal, we'll be ready to go. We won't be, inventing the wheel from scratch. We'll already have a good infrastructure in place and a proven track record of including, underrepresented groups in the STEM disciplines.
Absolutely. And are there any organizations on this campus for your college that I know you said something about the women's
Yeah.
technology group. Are there any more that women can be a part of, or minorities?
Yeah, well, there are professional organizations, all of them. Currently, we do not have a minority organization, but again, we're making steps towards that. A good example of that is this semester in our SC 101, one of our physics faculty members, Troy Williams, Dr. Troy Williams, is teaching a special SC 101 for minority students in the sciences. So he's a minority himself, he's Black. And so he has, of course, experienced what it's like being a Black student that's lived that experience of that in STEM, which is different than being a white male student in STEM. It's just for you don't know it unless you've lived it, and he has lived it. So that's the kind of thing it's meant to sort of establish the support and say, we know these are kind of the things you're going to run into. Here's how we overcome these things. So we are starting that right now. Just this semester, it's the first time. And we also have another faculty member who's doing one for women, an SU one section for women in technology also. So it's the kind of thing that's come more to the forefront recently. It was always something that we knew, and I say we, I'm talking to Southeastern, this is across the country where we know it's an issue, but no one's really actively and aggressively taken this thing and made some real positive steps. So these steps here, we're hoping are going to lead to a long-term trend to really being more and more welcoming for any underrepresented groups. And different disciplines have different underrepresented. So for example, biological sciences at the undergraduate level has loads of women in it. They're not hurting for that. It may be so at the graduate level, and at the professorial ranks, they don't get that many, while undergraduate computer science is very much about men. It's about basically white men and Asian men. That's what is happening right now. So there are tons of other demographics, which are, in our region here and at our university, which really, if you look at the demographics of those majors, it doesn't reflect at all our region or our student body.
Absolutely. And you, on that note, I remember that I covered a story on a $10 million bequest for women.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, I know that the biology building has already been renamed to the Thelma McNamara Naccard Ryan building. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit what's going on with that bequest endowment?
Okay. I'm the wrong person to answer about that, but I can turn the back. No, because that's not in my charge. That's more in development. So you'd have to get, I'm not going to say ask Dr. Crane about it, but no, that's in advancement right now. But this money was donated on the behalf of this gentleman, Mr. Ryan, on behalf of his wife, who never did get a degree. And so, but he wanted to support women getting on and, pursuing degrees here. So it was this miracle degree. Like it was anonymous until basically he died. And when he died, the lawyer showed up and said, by the way, you're going to get this donation. Turns out to be 10 million. So the money is, when it is all formalized and finalized, which again, we want it now. We can't wait till we get the go on this one. It's going to go support basically women in the STEM disciplines and underrepresented. That's the whole idea, is to try to provide some support for women in STEM disciplines. So it's going to be transformational once it happens, not just for certainly a great recruiting tool. People then going to be aware that, oh my God, this is out there. This is really something that we should consider doing. Then students will maybe come to our campus, see what we have to offer, and then be sold. That's the idea.
Yes, absolutely. And I know within the COVID times during the pandemic, things have really changed the way that we operate in society, as well as on the education and university level. Can you tell me a little bit about how that has impacted your college and how your professors and the students had to kind of adjust to what's going on?
Yeah, it was really, it's easy to complain about it, but what are you complaining against? The virus? I mean, the virus doesn't care what you think. The virus is going to do what it's going to do. So this was our reality. And so they just reworked the way they taught classes. We had people literally just working 12 hours a day, making videos, creating YouTube channels. They're buying technologies they can teach the students better. And it was just our labs. That was the big answer. How do you deal these labs here? So we had people just rethink what we're going to do there. They started making videos of labs, doing experiments. And because we didn't want to just dump it online, that would have been a disaster, because that person-to-person contact is essential, we think. We think that's almost what defines the great experience here at Southeastern. That's why students come here, is because they will know the professors, they'll know them one-on-one, and there is that personal connection there. If someone wants a sort of a detached connection, then there's other options, but that's what makes us great. So it was really this thing that we can't not let the students down here. So it was really, really, really hard, but they did it. So, for example, I mean, I'm actually teaching a class this semester. So when I teach the class, it's a lot harder than it was when I used to teach it, because I've got to prepare all of my keynote slides. It takes me 10 minutes to set the class up because I go and got my computer, I have my iPad typed into it, and then I've got to get the Google Zoom, the Google Meet thing, and I record it and broadcast it. So I have the people who aren't able to make class sitting at home, and so they're watching it, because some can't make it, they get sick and they can't make it. And so I get the students in the class, so we're interacting back and forth there. They're chatting to me, I'm talking, and I record it. And so then at the end of the day, it's all posted. So this is actually more than we did before. Before, when I lectured, it just went away. I mean, no one, unless someone recorded it, it didn't exist. But then we have this great reference. So the most amazing thing about this is that we feel that because of the changes we were really forced to make, we're now doing it better. We're able to, I mean, I don't have the attrition in my class I used to have, because students, instead of missing a class, they can now pick it up somewhere. They can watch something, so they still remain engaged. And in some of these classes, if you miss a few classes, you're in trouble. You don't want to miss 2 organic chemistry lectures and think you're just going to pick it. That's not going to work. You have got to stay on the ball all the time. So it's really even delivered more opportunities for the students to not just get the information, but interact with the teacher. It's so important to interact, so you still know who the person is. It's a lot different than putting up a video, say, watch it, and then take an online test. It's just not the same thing. So there were tons of challenges. The faculty more than rose to the occasion. And the thing that they kept in the back of their mind all the time is, we're all victims here. We can't let the students pay for this. Like we still have to teach them. This is what we do. We're here to teach our students. We can't let them down. So let's get through this and we'll come up better. And I think we have, I really do. And then I think that showed with our enrollment this fall. I mean, students had choices, and we got a bump in enrollment. And if you listen to higher ed around June, everyone's panicking about, we're going to lose half our students. That was the thing. Our enrollment went up. And I think that had a lot to do with the incredible job our faculty did delivering classes in the fall. And I remember talking to other students who went to other schools out of state that cost a heck of a lot more than us, and they did not see a professor after March 15th. It was over. It's like, okay, go online, take the test. They couldn't even get a TA to respond to them. It was just, they basically shut them down. We didn't shut them down. We took it. It was a challenge and we embraced it. And I think we're better for it. And I think our students are going to benefit because of it too. Still not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than it could be.
Yeah, that's certainly very hopeful, especially for the future, because we're uncertain about how things are going to go. Can you tell me a little bit about before, the pandemic, how the professors engaged with the students? I know science and technology is very hands-on. So what are the ways, some of the ways that they interacted with them?
You mean during the pandemic or beforehand?
Before, and hopefully after, when we can get back to normal.
Yeah, no, one thing we've really almost always prided ourselves on, and this is, back when I was first assistant professor and department head, is research is expected of our faculty, but we always involve our students in it. It's student-centered research is huge. And so, Michelle's promo, she talked about when I was actually doing research many, many years ago, and the number of student co-authors I have. And that's what we do. So we try to make sure that the students, we just don't interact in the classroom, it's outside the classroom too, in our research projects. You have, I know the Department of Engineering, Technology, and Computer Science had these huge project classes where they have to go and interface with some kind of external client and come up with a project for them. So these are things, they're just not sitting in a classroom and listening to someone talk at them. They are, by the very nature of it, getting hands-on, interfacing with people, whether it's our professors or some kind of external client. And because that's really the way things are going to work in the real world. You don't just, what you're learning is important, but it's how you can then take it and apply it. So through undergraduate research, and it's not the kind of research where like, okay, just go and wash test tubes and that's it. They are in there using the instrumentation, using machines, they're giving presentations, they're going to conferences, and they're on papers. It's a really immersive experience that the typical Typically, that's a graduate student experience, not an undergraduate experience. But our college is largely undergraduate. We have 2 graduate programs with maybe a combination of 45, 50 students. So the other, 2,000 plus are undergrads. So we love to engage our undergraduates in research projects. That's a big thing for us.
You mentioned some conferences. What
Yeah.
are some other ways in which the students can apply what they learned and kind of showcase that?
Yeah, a lot of that depends on your discipline. So the conferences are great for the sort of the more academic ones, like a physics one or mathematics or that. But we also have loads of internship opportunities, and that's for the disciplines which tend to be more specifically industry related, like industrial technology. Occupational safety is a great one that's so industry related. So the students, they can start in their junior year with an internship in a company. So they're almost always getting paid. They're making, it's a good, nice to make 15 bucks an hour, doing something where you're learning. And then when they graduate, they basically have a job waiting for them. So we have the internships are another thing where they are applying what they have learned to their job. And it's not it's not an internship where like, okay, intern, go get me the coffee, go make some photocopies. We have specific learning goals that have to happen with the internship. So not anyone can just get our students and have them running around. They need to tell us what they're going to do and write a report at the end as to what these students have done so we can demonstrate that they have indeed applied what they've learned here to the workplace.
What's some advice that you have for some graduates that are going into that workforce? They did the internship, now they're graduating, and maybe get on with that internship or find another job. What's some advice you have for them?
They will know if they're in those disciplines by their senior year where they're going to be working. I mean, our graduates especially in occupational safety, they get about 5 job offers. We have a really active industrial advisory board, which communicates with the faculty and the students. So there's jobs that they're not finding out when they graduate about the jobs. They know way before that. Many of them have them almost figured out by junior year. In fact, it's kind of been an issue in some disciplines, like make sure they graduate before they take the job. Like you've got to finish your degree first, please finish the degree, then take the job. So it's like the company wants them full time. Like, no, you can't have them yet. So no, in the fields in the College of Science Technology, students getting jobs is really not an issue. And we get them started early on with that, then again, it could be going to graduate school. That happens early on when they're doing the research. And so they'll go to a conference and then someone from a graduate program will go in there and say, oh, look at this is great work. And so the graduate schools are recruiting there at the conferences. So what they do after they graduate is already happening while they're students here. It's not like when they walk across the stage in May, they say, okay, what do I do now? They typically have that worked out.
Yes. Okay. That's really helpful, especially for some prospective students who are not unsure of which path they want to take. For the College and Technology, for the College of Science and Technology, can you tell me a little bit about the Workforce Talent Initiative?
Yeah, that's something I briefly alluded to before with the coding camps.
Mm-hmm.
And the coding camps were part of the Workforce Talent Initiative. That came from the money we got from the state for when DXC moved into New Orleans. So the state had money going to 7 different institutions, all for the sake of creating workforce. And so we took it, and again, every school is different. It varied from everything from North Shore Technical Community College to LSU. So I mean, it ran the whole gamut of the 7 institutions, from a community college with thousands of students to a research one PhD granting school with 25,000 students. And so we were in there too, and they wanted every school to do the right thing for themselves. So we created this, and we realized that what we needed to be was kind of an intermediary between our academic programs and the workforce in technology. Not just computer science, but also engineering technology, which gets into robotics, manufacturing. I mean, there's a lot of manufacturing going on in the southeast part of the state here. So it's really whatever technology companies were in the state or looking to grow into the state here as well, and make sure that we had the workforce ready for them. And so it's a lot of that is some of it's related to the pipeline, where I talked about the coding camps, where we're doing a lot of recruiting initiatives. One thing we found out that's very important is many employees already in the workforce need new training. The new buzzword is upskilling. So, and that's really because technology moves so quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
what we were teaching 5 years ago is not what's happening now. There's new things. I mean, there's so many great examples of that. Like 5 years ago, a 3D printer was kind of this novelty item. Now they're everywhere. We have them all over the place. So if someone had graduated, 8 years ago, a 3D printer was this magical thing. Now it's all over the place. The cloud is huge right now. You see the cloud. 5 years ago, it was this thing that happened. Now it's just everything is the cloud. So
how is the college keeping up with the job market?
Yeah, well, that's one thing we've done is we, through the Workforce Technology Initiative, we interface a lot with the companies and we find out what they need. And a great example of that is, I'll use the example of the cloud. AWS is a big deal for the cloud right now. Amazon Web Services, you probably see ads for them all the time. And so what companies are doing, instead of having a bunch of computers in their building, they just use AWS, which is somewhere else. But the people aren't trained for it. So we have offered all these. We have our faculty and one of the staff members of the Workforce Talent Initiative. He is now certified to teach 4 different AWS certifications. So he's the only one in the state that can do it. It's unbelievable. So we do it. Our students can take it. We've reached out to employees out there. One thing we did with COVID-19, and when they were asking what can the university do to help, we offered those certification courses for free to any company in Louisiana, in a tech company. So we had over 200 people participate. We've reached out to our alumni. So I'm sure Michelle Biggs would love to hear about that. And she actually was a big part of that. We reached out to the alumni. We just did a machine learning one right now. We have 40 people signed up to learn machine learning of our alumni, and all in this region here. So it's a lot of things. We originally thought it was going to be just about creating more of our graduates in 4 years, but now we know that there's this sort of fast scale responsiveness they need. They need this extra upskilling. So it's that's an example of what we're doing, is just listening to them and responding. So we have company and trying to respond quickly. That's been one of the challenges is, the speed of doing business is a lot different than the speed of doing business in higher ed. Like if we want to create a degree, it takes us 2 years to get it. And then it takes, 4 years to graduate you.
Right.
So 6 years is a long time in tech. Sometimes they need to turn around in a matter of weeks. So trying to be responsive has been a challenge, and we are really pleased with how we're doing it. And again, it's helping Southeastern because we're reaching out to our alumni and giving them more, educating them more, even after they've formally left us. So it's that important connection there. And this is directly related to their career advancement, we would hope.
Now, very briefly, I want to talk about the fanfare because I know this is something exciting coming up. It's where Southeastern every fall hosts a bunch of live concerts and lectures. Can you tell me a little bit about the dean segments that are going to go on for the college and technology?
For fanfare is largely run right now by the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. It has, I know that my friend Bill Robinson is the head of history and political science. There's a lot of that there. So in terms of what we're doing, no one's reached out to me yet from Arts, Humanities, Social Sciences. In the past, I have done a fanfare lecture. One year, it was, I talked about how, what was it? It was, how technology changed music. Because Michelle mentioned earlier, I teach this acoustics class. I'm teaching it now, so I do like music and I know enough about it to not look ignorant. So I talked about that. So it's largely driven by arts, humanities, social sciences. Most of the fanfare events are arts related. We have been occasionally, they do reach out to us and ask us to deliver a lecture or so on that. And I did once during the fanfare when I was in the band with the Impaired Faculties Band. We did play then too. So that's a while ago. That's not a dean thing. It's something I happen to do.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So we're definitely looking forward to the fanfare. Hopefully we'll see you there performing again.
Not this year.
So we have our Q&A. I want to start with one by Katura Green. She asks, what do you think the biggest barrier for your students is? How is the college equipping students to overcome that challenge?
Yeah, massive. I'll talk about a faceted question there. There are so many barriers. It depends upon the individual. Money, of course, is always a huge one. That's a big deal. We have students that commute an hour away. And when you have that time management is a massive thing here. I would say the biggest thing we run into, because we do get a fair amount of attrition, is the transition from high school to college is so huge. It's just so completely different where you go from a very managed environment in high school where you're in this seat at all these times here and you get these grades and your parents see all your grades and you come to college, you're on your own. It's just freedom. So it's a really different transition. So it's that. And also that is a huge challenge there, is just adjusting to that transition. And so what we're doing is we're trying to create a lot of mentoring within that, where we have senior students paired up with incoming students. We've added a lot of things with our lower level classes called supplemental instruction, where we have, again, students who are then working with the students to try to get them through the barrier. Because I'd say most of the people that end up, sort of saying, oh, I can't do this, I say 90% can do it. They just need to push through that barrier there. So it's kind of overcoming something. It's almost a growth thing where you need to say, you're an athlete, you know what it's like. You get this plateau and you can't go anywhere, and then somehow you just push through and you're at the new level, like, okay, that makes sense. And so much of it is just having support, having a bit of empathy, but not like you never make it easy. Because if you make it easy the first year, you're just going to get slammed the second year. So I would say there's all sorts of other small things, or not small, but the big things. But it's a transition where it's a totally different game. You have tons of freedom. Your classes aren't one after another. They may be just in a couple of days here, time management. And you're going to be, especially in our college, you're running into stuff you've never seen before academically. It's tough. It's really, really tough. And we've all been through it. We all know what it's like. I mean, all of our faculty, or certainly me, have been in classes where you just have no idea what's going on. And it takes you forever. You just got to fight through it and work through it, but know that there's a big support system there to get you. So my advice to her and everyone else is acknowledge it's going to be a challenge, but reach out for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's there. And we're trying our best to bring you in, but just reach out, and that will really make a big difference there. I think you can. If you can get through, I'm convinced if you can get through your first year, these things will be okay. First year is just such a shocking transition. They always say like sixth grade junior high is the biggest transition. I'm convinced high school to college is the biggest one.
Absolutely, especially in a time like this, you have to speak out and you have to reach out for help.
You really do. Yeah. It's almost easier. I mean, I wouldn't say it's easier, but there are more ways to do it now. Like some people, because we're remote, some students don't like to raise their hand in class. They feel like I'm embarrassed. I mean, that's just the way they are. But they're kind of okay doing it remotely. So it's almost brought more, it's adapted to different kind of learners. So there are some benefits to it. Again, it's not all negative. Try to be very positive about this.
Absolutely. Yasmin Smith asked, is there any significant student enrollment growth in the college/department?
Yes. Okay.
And okay, college department. And how does that translate to graduation outcomes?
Okay, right. We have found this, it's really, things are just cyclical. They ramp up and then they ramp down. Overall, this is kind of when I first became dean, we had 1,800 majors. Now we have 2,300. So that was starting in 2000, early days. One department, it used to be computer science and industrial technology. In 2008, we had 600 majors, and then we now have 1,200. So we actually had to go and split those departments into two departments. So we are getting growth. Some have waned a little bit, but that's really because occupational safety is exploding. It's just so many people. Biology has gone up about 100 majors in the last 3 years for a variety of reasons. We're seeing upticks in physics even. It's small numbers, but we are seeing increases, and same with mathematics. So in the ones that we're not seeing large growth, what we're trying to do is create up with new programming. So a good example is in engineering technology, we've now created a concentration in mechatronics, which sounds pretty cool. But it's basically, it's the kind of the combination of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer. It's all tied in together. And so much of that stuff is that way. So we have this mechatronics. So we're trying to come up with new concentrations to address that. Computer science, that rose a lot. Now it's sort of plateaued. We now have a concentration in data science, which is so hot right now. Data science is massive. I mean, there's ads on TV about data science. I mean, next to an ad for, chicken wings. It's like, they're advertising to the general public about this. It's not this niche thing anymore. It's now really big. So we're trying to do it by creating new curricula to adapt to that. One, which is very exciting, and then tomorrow, actually, the board meeting is happening. We'll hopefully get approved at the system level. It's called a Bachelor's of Science in Integrated Science and Technology.
Yes.
And what this will allow students to do, and this has been a big challenge in the last, I'd say 20 years, is so many jobs now are not just about this one discipline, there's two blended together. I mean, that happens all the time, especially computer science ties in with everything. But, like, for example, you could be a wetland ecologist, but you need to figure out remote sensing and the Internet of Things, because that's how you're measuring things. So if you tie in some mechatronics courses and some biology, you can then create something in the Gulf of Mexico, some kind of a robot mechanically testing the things you need. So many jobs have two disciplines tied in together. And that's what integrated science and technology will do. It will allow a firm foundation in the sciences and computer science, but then you can blend two things together in the scientific field. So I think it's going to be a killer type discipline there. And it's going to have a lot of interest in people because, healthcare and computer science is big. I mean, iPad came out 10 years ago. Now it's everywhere, and so you would want a healthcare professional knowing computer science to be able to program an iPad. That's something that you could do in this discipline. So I think it's a very exciting discipline, which will hopefully continue the growth in our department. To answer her question, we have had growth. It's been discipline specific. And those that are not growing that hard, we're trying to create new programming opportunities in those disciplines to allow for increased growth.
Right. Yasmin also asked a follow-up to your answer just now. She asked about the Bachelor in Science and IT.
Yeah.
When will that be available to students?
Okay. We will find out tomorrow if it's approved at the system level. No, definitely stay tuned. And then it's going to happen after that. But I would start talking to your advisors now, because many of the courses in it, many people have already taken. And so we kind of designed it so, like, if you, for example, are a biology major, okay, and you're 2 years into it, or you're even some other major which takes a lot of these courses, you've already got them. So once it's created, you can then just take the upper level courses and get into it. We figured out that you could literally switch into the major in 3 semesters, graduate out of it. So once it's approved, we're hoping we can start the first class fall 2021. But if it's approved, immediately get with an advisor. Our advisor is going to start talking to you about it right off the bat, and then find out what you do. So you can have your curriculum planned out and then start it in fall 2021. And it is meant to be very much a workforce thing. A big part of this course is an internship where you need to learn with our faculty what companies out there want this kind of a thing. And so then you'll meet with these companies, you'll create an internship, and that'll be a part of it too. So again, very much a workforce thing. So instead of, this is also kind of in response to the companies wanting this upskilling. We're graduating students, and then the companies say, we need this extra training. Wouldn't it be great if you had as much of it now when you walk out? So I think the companies are going to respond well to this too.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think so.
So Caitlin Crowell asked, was your department more equipped to handle the problems that came up for this pandemic because of their former experience with technology? It's a really good question.
No, that is a fantastic question. Computer science was like nothing. They didn't worry about it at all. So it varied. Some, yes, but a lot of time, if you're involved with technology, like say you're in a chemistry lab, like you're good at all those instruments and the chemicals and this and that. Doesn't mean you're necessarily good at, doing all the other stuff with computing, because the transition was a very specific kind of technology. It was broadcast communication technology, isn't it? It's like what you do. So in interfacing with students that way. So some faculty who are very used to, going into the board and writing on a board, and that's what they do, and that's fine. So you can be a biology person and be very comfortable with the board. That was a huge switch for them. So it depended upon the discipline. What really, really helped, again, I can't go on about how great my faculty were, is the other faculty were giving workshops for other faculty that had a hard time doing it. So those that were more proficient would help out. In In July, the math department, this is before classes started, a month before classes started, we had 5 faculty holding workshops for everyone else. So they knew that the first day of classes, they were ready to go. They had dress rehearsals. They were running in and saying, "You show me how you can do the first day of class." So we were practically rehearsing what to do. And so when classes started, there were no surprises. So again, it really was great for some disciplines, like computer science was great. Engineering technology had some people that were very, very good at this, but they used their expertise to help the other faculty that were a little, it was more of a shock to the system to them. So yeah, I'd say it did help on some level. What really helped was the willingness of the faculty to share their expertise, which is the way we work here. That's how Southeastern works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you again. It's time to wrap it up. I certainly enjoyed this conversation with you, and I know that our audience did as well.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you taking out the time and learning a little bit more about the College of Science and Technology.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And for our audience, we'll hope that you'll tune in tomorrow as Dean Ann Carruth from the College of Nursing and Health Sciences joins the Coffee with Dean segment at noon on Zoom. So same time, same place. It's all part of the Southeastern's exciting homecoming week. I'm Rachel Riley, and remember, lion up.